Today we've got this Mercedes E53 in for our stage 1 machine polish in 3-year ceramic coating. Now we're going to get all decontaminated now, get it in the bay and start the machine polishing process. Right, so as mentioned before, the first stage of this whole process is decontaminating the vehicle. Obviously, when we receive these vehicles, sometimes they are in quite bad condition, and we need to get them back to a good standard. Obviously, remove all the kind of tar, brake dust, and whatever else from the vehicle's paintwork, and that's kind of stopping the vehicle from looking glossy. Now, the first thing we're doing here is putting a pre-wash on the vehicle. We're just going to leave that and let it soak and dwell to remove any kind of dirt that's kind of built up in the paintwork. And from there, we're then going to start rinsing off all of the suds and whatever else chemical-wise that is on the paintwork, just to really get any algae off. We're going to do all the wheels, the arches, and make sure I get right into every crevice and kind of hole, really, to remove anything that may be in there. And from there, we're then going to put on what we call an iron remover. We're going to apply this to absolutely everywhere on the car. As you can see on the brake rotors there, it's obviously turning red when it reacts with metal. And this is just to remove any kind of iron deposits from the brake dust that may be on the body parts of the vehicle and the panels. And this is essentially caused when people are doing a lot of heavy brake and they may be driving the vehicle fast, or if you just haven't done a decon wash on the vehicle for a while, it may just be built up there over time, just due to the fact that obviously you're always braking in the car, and you're always going faster than slower, and obviously the brake dust does fly off the brake disc onto the panels of the vehicle. So as you can see there, it's just dwelling on the rotors, really turning red, and from there we're going to start rinsing all of this chemical off. Now, the reason we let it dwell is just obviously let it kind of do its whole process and remove any kind of iron, like mentioned before. So when you're working in sunlight like this, you kind of have to make sure that it's not drying on the vehicle, because it can cause chemical burns on the paintwork. And this is actually an alkaline chemical, so it will have to be neutralized after, which obviously we always take the care and attention to do so from the vehicle, and just to make sure it's not going to react with the oxygen once we've kind of dried the whole vehicle off and going forward. Now, this is the imperative process. This is what happens every single time we receive a vehicle, and it is imperative that we obviously have to do this to start the machine polishing process, just to remove any contamination that may be on the paintwork. Now, from there, we're going to start cleaning the wheels. We're going to get right in all the barrels. Adam's doing the faces on the other side while I'm just doing all the barrels. And this is to basically get the vehicle's wheels as perfect as we can, while still keeping them on the car. We are actually taking these wheels off to ceramic coat them later on, but it is a lot easier in the beginning as well if you do just hit them with obviously all the brushes to remove as much contamination from the wheels as possible, as they are the dirtiest part of the wheels. As you can see there, we've also cleaned out all the arches and to basically get any dirt. Like I mentioned before, they are the dirtiest part of the wheels. This is why we always start with the wheels, and from there we can move on to the bodywork. Now, when we're in a team, me and Adam doing things together, we can always smash things out a lot quicker, half the time essentially. But if we are working by ourselves, it does take around about 5 to 10 minutes per wheel to get them to a good condition. And from there, we're then going to rinse off all the kind of fallout remover that we put on before and start the snow foaming process. Now, this is the part that most people like. We're going to cover the whole car in a thick layer of pH neutral snow foam. Not only is it going to neutralize the chemicals that we've just put on, and like I mentioned before, so it doesn't oxidize any wheels, and start the kind of peeling process is what you see on a few cars, but it also adds a lot of lubrication to the paintwork. So when we hit it with our first contact wash, which we're going to do next, all the contamination from the pre-wash phase, and we haven't actually touched the paintwork of the car or before that, that's like a 15-minute process, basically the pre-wash, rinsing it off, and the red 7, which is the fallout, and from there we'll just lubricate all the surfaces up before we then put knit to the bodywork, which would be our first kind of contact to the car. Now, the reason we do this is so we don't put any more swirl marks in the vehicle. This vehicle itself, it is a very high-spec vehicle, to be honest, an expensive vehicle, but the paintwork's condition for the age of the vehicle and how little miles are on the car, it was actually outstanding, to be honest. So whoever's had this previously in the ownership and before the customer brought it to us, because he just bought the vehicles 2 weeks ago before this, they obviously haven't been looking after the vehicle. They've probably been taking it into driving car washes or automatic car washes. And you'll be able to see in the next kind of part of this video of why you don't take it to place like that, and the kind of damage it causes to the vehicle. As you can see there on the number plate, it is a 20 plate vehicle, 30,000 miles on the clock. And it's dreadful, the paintwork's condition, to be honest, and that's why it's with us. So me and Adam will just go around every single painted surface of the vehicle, removing all the contamination from the paintwork. And from there, like here, as you can see, we're going to rinse off the paintwork and all the snow foam from the vehicle, making sure to get in all the crevices. And this is actually now the second time we're rinsing off the vehicle to remove any kind of contamination, just to make sure that the canvas we're about to work on is a perfect canvas for the machine polishing process. So as you can see at the front of the bumper here, a lot of the suds and a lot of the snow foam gets stuck in all of the grills. So I'm just really working that jet wash lance to remove all of this kind of snow foam and any dirt that may be stuck in the grill. And obviously before we start the next phase of the process for the decontamination. If we receive a vehicle at 8 o'clock in the morning, we normally decontaminate one vehicle by around about 10 o'clock if I'm working on our own. If it is two of us, it's probably half the time. It's around 9 o'clock. It does take a full hour between two people to make sure the vehicle is fully decontaminated and obviously ready for the contact phase of the machine polisher to go around and start paint correcting the vehicle. So now in hindsight, the wheels have been done, the bodywork's been done as well with the contact wash, so everything should be very clean. Obviously, there shouldn't be any dirt on there left. So from there, we're just hitting it with a tar remover. This is Tarnis by Autosmart that we're applying to the vehicle. And the vehicle, with regards to kind of tar, didn't have that much tar on it. We've got the option here to basically clear bar the vehicle or just kind of go around it with Tarnis. And since it didn't have that much contamination left on the paintwork, we decided to make it a little bit easier for ourselves and only hit the vehicle with Tarnis. Obviously, all the iron deposits have been removed. All the tree sap, everything like that from the roof has been removed. It didn't really have much on. And from there, obviously, we've started the Tarnis, which is just going to remove the tar from the paintwork and obviously prepare it again. And from there, we're just drying the vehicle's paintwork now to obviously get it perfectly dry to move into the unit and start the machine polishing process. The towels that we're using here is Sam's Detail and Drying Towels. They're one of the best that we found on the market at the moment. And we just go around every single surface here, trying to get it as dry as possible. But from there, we're then going to use an air compressor when we pull it into the unit to remove any water that may be left in all the crevices of the kind of bodywork of the vehicle, just so that when we're machine polishing, there's not going to be any water dripping down into the polish and obviously affecting the way that we're paint correcting. So once we've done all that, we've pulled it into the unit, we've just opened the bonnet, and we actually did clean the underside of the bonnet as well. The customer didn't opt for it, but we did do it just as kind of a courtesy thing. And Adam's just going around there with the air compressor, like mentioned before, removing any water from the kind of crevices of the bodywork. And you can see there's a lot of stuff that's always left kind of in the piano blacks and around the wing mirrors and things like that, that if you were to leave that, it would take probably days to remove it. It's also imperative to get around any badges and things like that when we're doing this process. This is just like mentioned before, to remove the water spots. You don't want any water kind of drying, just because all the kind of chlorine and things and the minerals in the water can leave water spots on the car. And obviously we're trying to achieve a very wet and glossy look and a perfect mirror finish to the vehicle for when the client picks it up. So it is imperative that you do this process. And from there, we're now inspecting the paintwork. And as you can see, like this vehicle only has 30,000 miles on it. It is a 20-plate vehicle. And the condition of the paintwork is absolutely horrendous. I would say there's thousands of swirl marks in this paintwork, especially with the vehicle being black. You can see absolutely all of it in the light there. And swirl marks, the straight scratches. It's absolutely everything in the paintwork that needs removed. And like I mentioned before at the start of the video, this was only originally coming in for a stage one, but we ended up calling the customer and, kind of opting for something more, because a stage one, in all honesty, would not have removed half of their swirl marks from the paintwork. And with our stage one package, it aims for a paint correction factor of 65%. So we're looking to remove at least 65% of the swirl marks and scratches from the vehicle before we apply the ceramic coating, where with the stage two, which what we kind of told the customer he should opt for, just to get the paintwork condition as perfect as possible, that has a paint correction factor of 90%. As you can see there is a sanding mark on the front bumper, which has been caused maybe if there's been bird muck on there. Someone's used a very abrasive process to try and remove something from the bodywork, and that's why it's very dull and flat, and it almost looks like it's been sanded down. And the rest of the vehicle itself, a lot of these piano blacks, you can see chemical burns all over the vehicle's piano blacks. We couldn't actually remove all of these. We literally tried everything in the book, and we were getting to the point where we were going to burn through the piano blacks if we were to take it any further. So once all that's done, we've inspected the paintwork. Like I say, we're starting the machine polishing process. So this is essentially when we're going to go around with the rotary machine polisher now, because he did opt for a stage 2. And we're going to basically cut as hard as we can into the clear coat to remove as many scratches and swirl marks from the paintwork as possible. From there, we then need a dual action machine polisher, which is what Adam's using now. And he's just doing a test spot right now, just to see how it would react basically with a dual action. Obviously, we realised it wasn't going to do anything, and that's when we did ring the customer and say, to be honest, we do recommend upgrading the service. Obviously, we always put it towards the customer. It's their car at the end of the day. We're not kind of pressuring them into doing anything, but it's essentially what we think is going to be best for the vehicle, essentially, which in this case, with the damage that was on the paintwork and the swirl marks and whatever else, we 100% thought that a stage 2 would be the best. The reason we didn't say stage 3 is because, one, it didn't suit the customer's budget, and two, the person who had the vehicle, or who still has the vehicle, sorry, he uses this as a daily driver. Perfection like that, you're more looking at kind of supercars or kind of show cars where people only kind of use it on the weekend. It all depends client to client, don't get me wrong. A lot of people use a daily driver, they just want the best. But in this case, we thought mid-range service with a stage 2 will get 90% of them swirl marks gone at least. There was literally around about 2 scratches left on the vehicle, and the only reason we left them, in all honesty, was because if we took them any further, we would have burned through the clear coat, and obviously we don't want that for the customer. So as you can see, Adam's just on the bonnet here with the rotary polisher. Now, the difference between rotary machine polishing and dual action machine polishing is that a rotary is a lot more direct in the way it rotates, so it creates a lot more heat. However, it removes a lot more scratches a lot quicker. Now, you always hear horror stories of people burning through paint. 9 times out of 10, the reason they burn through paint is because they're inexperienced on the rotary polisher, and obviously they kind of hit a corner or an edge, or it's caught itself and it has ripped the paint off the edge. With the rotary, it creates a lot of heat, and it creates what we call holograms in the paintwork, and that is essentially a man-made thing, which is being caused off rotary polishing. Essentially, there's been a lot of heat created. It's also commonly known as buffer trails, where if you were to just leave it after the first stage of rotary polishing and not refine it, as soon as you take this car outside and it's put in the sunlight, you'd be able to see where we've been with the machine polisher. Obviously, we won't have any scratches in because we've removed them. However, you will be able to see the holograms and buffer trails that's being caused by the rotary machine polisher going forward. Now, just to kind of go back to what I was saying before, the difference between a rotary and a dual action polisher, we've mentioned what the rotary does, but a dual action polisher itself moves in a different way compared to the rotary. It doesn't create as much heat, but at the same time, it refines the paintwork after we've done the rotary polishing process. So that's just to kind of, like I mentioned before, refine the rotary buffer trails and things like that. Or if the paintwork's not in too bad condition and it is a softer paint, you can get away with just rotary machine polishing box. But in this case, and how bad the paintwork was and its condition, we opted just for a straight rotary polish, remove as much as possible, and then 2 stages of refinement thereafter. Right, so it's stage 2 on this Mercedes E53. It originally came in for a stage 1. Well, obviously, by the time we decontaminated, as you see in the video earlier, and we brought it inside, rang the customer because we thought it would be better with the stage 2, just due to how many swirl marks were in the actual paintwork of the car. As you can see, Adam's busy finishing the rotary polishing method, and that's essentially where we use a very abrasive polisher, which is a rotary, a very heavy cut pad and very heavy cut compound to basically cut right into the clear coat, removing as many scratches and swirl marks from the paintwork as possible. Since that creates a lot of heat, it creates what we call holograms, which essentially is where we've done the paintwork. Like I mentioned before, it removes a lot of scratches and swirl marks, but in the process, it does dull the paintwork. So if you come in over here, I can basically show you what we're doing. So this is obviously where Adam's been already. And as you can see, if you look into the paintwork here, if my torch will turn on, it looks almost like swirl marks essentially, which is basically what we've caused into the paintwork. All these are man-made from the polisher, and essentially from there, we have to do the second stage of the process to refine this and get the paintwork back to that depth and clarity and like that glass finish that we're looking for. So I'm going to go around with the dual action polisher now, start refining it on this side where Adam's already been, while Adam finishes off the rest of the car. And then from there, you'll start seeing kind of the first look at the end result of the vehicle before we ceramic coat it. Right, so we've just finished this kind of refining process on this little bit of the bonnet here. And if you come in here, I'll be able to show you, basically, this is the first kind of look and sneak peek that you get on the vehicle from when it's been refined. As you can see, the flecks really come into the paintwork and really got all them holograms out of the paintwork. That's obviously what we're trying to achieve, and from what's being caused from the rotary polisher. And this is pretty much the end result of the car before we ceramic coat it. And then obviously we need to ceramic coat every single painted surface of the vehicle. We're selling it to the interior of the vehicle, ceramic coat the glass and the wheels, so the full car is protected going forward. Right, now that we've finished the full refinement stage, we've done 2 stages on the vehicle. Adam's just doing now a 3rd stage, which is just going to be a super finish. It's not really included with the service, but we thought it was really good to top the vehicle off, really. And it would only take about 20 minutes to go around the full car with the super finish, really put that top gloss on and give it that show car appearance that obviously the customers want. And once we've done that, we're then going to wipe it all down, start the ceramic coating process, which obviously we'll show you soon. So the final piece of the puzzle is these piano blacks. The reason we leave them to last is because obviously they're made of plastic, not actual paint. So they are a lot softer than the rest of the paintwork, and normally because of that, they are a lot worse and a lot more scratched and marred and whatever else. As you can see on this piano black here, if you just come close, it has a lot of chemical burns along the actual where it's normally chrome, which they're basically caused by improper kind of car cleaning techniques, using very abrasive chemicals, having the dilutions off, or if you let your chemicals dry in the sun while they're on the car before you clean them, that's what can happen. So we leave this all to last so we can focus on it, get them perfect, fully cut and refined to get them to perfection again. And obviously it just finishes off the whole car really, because if we were to leave them like that now, obviously it's still damaged, and that's what the customer's paying for at the end of the day. Right, so we've just fully machine polished this car. We've now wiped all the residue off with an isopropyl alcohol. So this is the bare vehicle. It's got no protection on. Obviously, the full machine polishing process has been done. It's now time to start the ceramic coating. So all we're going to do is start applying it to every single painted surface of the vehicle and the glasswork. We're still need to take the wheels off and ceramic coat them, but we're going to do that after the vehicle is ceramic coated and left to cure. Now, originally this car was only coming for a 3-year ceramic coating, but since the customer obviously did upgrade to a stage 2, we had a spare 7-year ceramic coating lying around, so we decided to, just whack a 7-year ceramic coating on for the customer, keep it protected for that full duration, basically, for the full 7 years. It is fully warranted for 7 years, so in the unlikely event that it were to fail, you can just bring the vehicle back to us and we'll do the job again completely free. As you can see now, we're just polishing the windows. This was actually done before the ceramic coating, obviously, to reduce any kind of polish that were to go on the vehicle. And from there, we're taking the wheels off. The ramp actually broke. We're waiting for Snap-on to come out and fix that, so we had to jack it up manually, do it old school way. And from there, we actually airbrush the barrels and the faces and behind the spokes as well, just to get an absolute perfect coverage of these wheels. And the wheels themselves are fully warranted for the full duration of the ceramic coating as well. Same thing goes, if it ever stops repelling water off the wheels and in turn protecting it, you can bring them back and we'll do the job again completely free. Not only that, it adds a lovely wet and glossy look to the vehicle. It really finishes off the car to a near perfect condition. Like I mentioned before, it is only a paint correction factor of 90%, but in all honesty, there was literally 2 scratches left on this vehicle, and the only reason they were left there is because if we were to take it any further, we're going to burn through the paintwork, which is obviously what we're not trying to achieve. And from our professional opinion, sometimes, you kind of have an option professionally ourselves to think, right, if we remove this, it will look better, obviously, but if we're going to do that and potentially burn through the paint, obviously, we don't want to burn through your paintwork, especially when it's all original. We want to keep it that way. And, if there is just one tiny scratch that more than likely you're not going to see outside, it's definitely worth just kind of keeping it there. And that's why we do say it is a paint correction factor of 90%. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. And this is basically, like I mentioned before, a 2-day process that's going to put down into 22 minutes. It is a very long process, but if you do want anything like this done to your vehicle, please give me a call at 01670 5800 54. Alternatively, you can visit our website at www.hadriansvehicleservices.com, and we'll make sure to get any of your needs served for. We also offer mobile valeting, PPF, and wheel refurbishments and interior protections also. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed making this video, to be honest. And if you do want stuff like this done in the future, please just leave a comment. That would be absolutely perfect. So have a lovely day, and see you next time.